After Prime Take, welcome back on the AM show. This morning, I have a very short reflection for you on three thematic areas, and I just want us to reflect on these this morning. I've titled my piece, Blunt Thoughts of a Shortage of Crucial Vaccines, Christian Atsu's Great Wish and the Bawku Conflict, How I See It. Ghana, for pick any country globally, apart from those under dictatorships or authoritarian regimes, or such misleaders, and you would find a certain trajectory and standards, especially with highly developed democratic governments. But just you look at our governments here, weighing their promises and performances side by side with the wishes and aspirations of the people, and you'll see the shocking disconnect. Bad as that may be, there are certain happenings that just shock you to the bone and make your stomach churn. Women and children across the world are considered the most vulnerable, which is why children, principally, are given prime of place in various aspects of our lives, including healthcare. But not here in Ghana, apparently. Here, some of the worst things happen to children. They school under trees, drown owing to lack of life-saving life jackets like we saw with those 8 poor souls that were lost recently. And even worse, they lack basic vaccines that can save their lives as they grow. I ask, what kind of country is this that marginalizes the most vulnerable, the group most deserving of protection? Which country does that? Ghana does. There you have your answer. Come along with me. Why have I put this here? I'm sure you're seeing a lot of fanciful names: rubella, penta and rota, oral poliomyelitis, measles, pertussis, tetanus, diphtheria. These are some of the diseases that we protect our children from. You know what polio can do to you, your limbs and all of that. But how would you find it if I told you there was a widespread shortage of some vaccines used for routine? It should be common. Immunization of babies from birth to at least 18 months, and these are in short supply. In fact, on this list, you do not see Accra, but Accra is also in here. Accra is on this list. So Koforidua, they lack this, all of these, including polio, rubella, bolgatanga, Bacillus Chalmette-Guerin, OPV, polio, measles, yellow fever, Men A for the vaccination of children have been in short supply in the region for the past 2 months. 2 months! What happens to those children who should be getting these shots? Wa, same, penta, yellow fever, among others. Kumasi, oral poliovirus, measles, yellow fever, rotavirus, among others, including meningitis. Kumasi, Cape Coast, Takrady. And just you take a look from here. Look at the vaccine preventable deaths in Ghana. Deaths caused by vaccine preventable diseases in Ghana between 1990 and 2019. Look at that. Diphtheria, 329. Yellow fever, 3,054. Hepatitis B, 3,753. Tetanus, avoidable, 12,555. Whooping cough, measles, meningitis. But look at the figure for meningitis and look at the figure for tuberculosis. 319,504. Preventable. Now, guess what? The situation, in fact, when you look at the potential to increase the vulnerability of children to the diseases the vaccines seek to protect them against, it is quite a problem. How and why did we get here? Ask the health minister. For an egregious failure of this nature, most ministers anywhere in the world would have resigned quietly or been sacked. But no, not in Ghana. After all, even when all the COVID-19 issues came up, he neither resigned nor was sacked. So why do anything now? It is just what it is. For the second part of my discourse today, I would like to focus a bit on Christian Atsu and how we can immortalize him. Naming pictures after him and all that is okay, but far from enough. How about something he had fought tooth and nail for and spoken openly about? Let's find out what he had to say. But before that, what is a non-custodial sentence in law? Come with me. In terms of a non-custodial sentence, according to the Collins Dictionary, breaking it down so it doesn't sound too legal, we don't want to use legalese, a punishment given by a court of law that does not involve a prison term, such as a fine or a restriction order. And this is something that many people have called for. Christian was one of those. He says, a nation that has no non-custodial law will needlessly throw petty offenses offenders into prison and feed them with the taxpayers' money when such offenders could help desilt our choked and stinking gutters? I just don't understand why Parliament has consistently pushed aside the passage of the non-custodial sentencing bill into law. You can understand very much young people who are thrown into jail, oftentimes, when we could use them in different ways and not have to throw them into jail. Now, the non-custodial sentencing regime in China, non-imprisonment penalty, commonly known as community correction in China, refers to out-of-prison correction program for minor lawbreakers jailed for 3 years or less. The practice has proved successful because the second crime rate of correctional convicts was just 1% after this. 1%. Why can't we do that here? The crime rate as a result is 6% lower than those committed by jailed criminals. Just imagine that. Again, community corrections are described to center on rehabilitation of offenders, helping them, quote, eradicate criminal minds and behavioral vice by means of social forces. The practice of punishment in China has been associated with education, persuasion, and formation. What a way to remember our star, our brother, friend, father, and all, if we fulfill this wish of his, which he was so passionate about while he still walked among us. In fact, while he was still alive, he helped a lot of those people. Why can't we do that in his memory, rather than some of the petty things that have been mentioned? We can do all of that, but this, if we did it and roped his name into it, would be quite a legacy. It's a proposition I'm putting out there. Finally, for the third and last part of my blunt thoughts today, I'd like to reflect upon what is going on in Bawku. But even before I get there, let me just draw your attention to the fact that with many of the happenings in our country today, we could, if serious action is not taken soon, become an entity highly vulnerable, if we are not there already, to the scourge of terrorism and of serious tensions. Look at Trepone. We're telling you about it just this morning. 4 people killed, 5 others, including a soldier, left with serious injuries, all because of a chieftaincy dispute at Wenchike. Interestingly, just like in the latest melee in Bawku, guess what? The violence followed the enskinment of a chief of Nyangbangi near Trepone by the paramount chief of Trepone, while Na Abuba, the chief of Wanchiki, also enskinned only yesterday a different person as chief for the Nyambengi community. This actually comes as no surprise as we hear only 6 out of the 300 traditional areas in the country have validly completed the documentation of their lines of succession about 20 years after the National House of Chiefs initiated moves to have lines of succession to stools and skins codified to help address chieftaincy disputes. The 6 traditional areas that have fulfilled this are Ofenso, Tepa, Ewutu, Brekum, Shidiem, and Kweu. That's it. When you have a situation like that, can you not expect some of these problems to happen? Now, looking at the Bawku chieftaincy dispute, following independence in 1957, the chieftaincy abruptly switched hands between Mampusi and Kusasi on 3 occasions. The last change occurred in 1983 when the government decided to recognize the Kusasi chief instead of the Mampusi regent. The following years saw a handful of violent altercations, but by 1986, peace returned and the chieftaincy dispute fell into the realm of politics and court battles. Looking at the implications, because the Kusasis, the larger group there, have stated their case. The Mampusis have also made their case. But we could have resolved this. 13 years of peace until there was a rapid cracking of automatic weapons firing on the outskirts of town, and at least 113 people have died since 2001 alone. 113 people. This is a scar on the conscience of our leaders. How do we resolve this crisis? Here are some proposals. Colonel Festus Awaji, retired, whom I spoke to the other day on this matter, very knowledgeable on this issue. He says, I will suggest that the president seizes this opportunity, or he sees this opportunity, to travel to the area to try and get the parties to tone down because all the rhetoric that is going on is not helpful. The president, through conflict resolution, can help the parties involved calm down and resolve their issues. Mr. President, what are you doing? We celebrated you for what happened with the Yana Yendi. How about this one? This is a serious problem. How about Emmanuel Boadi? What has he had to say? The state needs to affirm its authority in the Bawku area to prevent an escalation of the conflict. The state's assertion of authority must be done in such a manner that it takes into account the emotions of the stakeholders in the conflict due to the sensitive nature of the issues at stake. Again, if the state fails to do so, the country will be faced with a situation similar to the Yendi conflict, which took 20 years to resolve. 20 years. So we have the blueprint, we have the precedent. Why are we not applying these? Because if we don't, the terrorists are around us, the scourge is real, some of them are said to be in our country already. Let's not give them fodder to work with. Already, we have Galamsey, which is a problem, which feeds into what they do. This is a ticking time bomb we're sitting on. And government's failures and the terrorist threat added to that means we have a huge problem to deal with. Like I said, we have the Yendi example. Ghana 4, I speak of these three issues because I am very passionate about the brand called Ghana. I'm very passionate about what we aspire to, what we should be having, or what we deserve from our leaders. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you this morning. Raw, hot, unedited, and undiluted. As always, I pray that God richly bless Ghana and make her great and strong.